Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole, Lauren Frey, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. I finally have a spare second to sit down and talk about something. Holy crap. I have been, running ragged all week, doing all sorts of things, but I have been meaning to talk about this specific subject for a long time now, because this is something that's very, very near and dear to my heart. This is something that I care about quite a lot. This is something I value above almost all others, and that is the fact that the Batman Arkham Trilogy was not a very good series of games. I hated all of them, to a certain extent. Obviously, Arkham Asylum wasn't, the worst thing ever, but, going into that game, seeing all the hype around it, seeing so many discuss it as, one of the best beat-em-ups of all time, as an actual fan of the genre, as someone who's played, countless better action games over the years, I found the very idea laughable, right? Arkham City was even worse. There was a period of time where people would call Batman Arkham City not only the best Batman game of all time, not just the best superhero game of all time, but one of the best games of all time, period. And thankfully, that's died down a lot over the years. I think people are more willing to talk about these games and their problems and how they haven't, aged very well and how they aren't that big of a deal. I'm glad to see that the Arkham Trilogy has been kind of lost to history, even if people don't necessarily give these games the bad rap that honestly they deserve. I was not a big fan of the Arkham games, but after seeing the decline of the Gotham Knights, seeing all the controversies that arose from that, seeing people bitch about the gameplay, the visual design, just the changes from the Arkham Trilogy. It's safe to say that I think the DC expanded universe cannot succeed because fundamentally nobody wants to play a big AAA game where you don't get to play as Batman. Gotham Knights just fell flat on its face, I think, for that one specific purpose, or for one specific reason, although nobody wants to admit it, in that, without Batman, these games have nothing. Without, the fantasy of being the rich billionaire playboy who's saving the world by beating up poor people on the streets of Gotham. There is no selling point. You can't sell a Batman game without Batman. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And Gotham Knights, I think, proved that very, very well. And now, going into the next major game for these company, I think Rocksteady's next project, the next game we're supposed to be excited about is Suicide Squad, a series that nobody cares about, who knows anything about, that has no real history or culture. I have no idea what the Suicide Squad is. I've heard the name thrown around a couple of times. I know they made a shitty movie about it. I know, Harley Quinn is in it. But, it's one of those things where I'm just who cares, really? If the character isn't, a big or recognizable DC character, they just cannot sell the game, right? And although Harley Quinn is popular with the DC equivalent of, the Fujo audience, I would say, I feel that audience isn't going to get excited about, oh, you get to play as Harley Quinn. I think the character has become less popular over the past decade because of all the crazy nonsense they've pulled with her. I personally went from thinking she was one of the more interesting characters in the DCAU to just being one of the most overexposed, boring, mishandled characters in the entire franchise because the character is completely unrecognizable from what she used to be, what made her interesting to begin with. She went from someone that was relatable, who was who had an interesting, compelling backstory to what she is now, a complete train wreck of just a warped fanboy, fantasy nonsense, that what they're doing now. Going into this, I was shocked at how little enthusiasm there was for Suicide Squad. Even after that Game Awards trailer, when they showed off that, oh man, this is This is Kevin Conroy's final project. This is the last thing he worked on as Batman before he died. And like it makes me wonder if like DC killed him so they could kind of like recreate that like Heath Ledger thing from The Dark Knight, like, oh, this is the iconic Batman voice. If we just kill him, then people will have to check out Suicide Squad. I don't see anyone getting excited about Suicide Squad because this is the last Kevin Conroy performance, right? He had a good run as Batman. He's iconic. I grew up with him and stuff like that. That doesn't mean I'm gonna go out and buy Suicide Squad. That doesn't mean I'm gonna go out and buy this game. And like, what exactly is Suicide Squad? Like, what's the gameplay like? Like, you fight the Justice League, but like they all seem to be evil, but like why how is that any different from the normal Justice League, like the real Justice League are a bunch of totalitarian motherfuckers who just impose their rule of authority on the common man, right? That can't be controlled by the government or any worldly organization. Like, the Justice League by its nature is corrupt. So I don't see anything fundamentally different or unique or interesting about like, oh man, Batman is evil, because Batman was evil to begin with, right? Like, this isn't anything new or interesting. This is just par for the course for DC media. So I there's nothing about this game that's appealing to me or to any other fan of, well, any fan of the DC universe. I'm not a fan of DC, as you can clearly tell. Like, the people who liked the Arkham Trilogy aren't going to get into this because the idea of making Batman evil isn't appealing to them. And making Batman an NPC enemy is not appealing to them. And for me, it's just not an interesting concept to begin with. Like, there are so many better superhero games I could be playing. Like, I have no interest in DC. I have no interest in Batman. I have no interest in like Rocksteady, one of the most overrated game studios of like the past decade. Like, my optimism is that this is going to be the end of the studio. This is going to be the end of like the Arkham Trilogy series of games. This is going to be a major bomb, a major blemish in this brand, and I really really hope this leads to like the dark age of DC video game adaptations, because I am sick and tired of people pretending this stuff is good.